So, I constantly hear people talk about the evils of wealth, somehow implying that wealth is in and of itself evil, or rich people are innately evil, or some other crap like that. And I have to say, that is just complete crap. Rich people are not innately evil. I think there's no group of people that are innately evil. And really, the main difference between rich people and poor people usually comes down to a combination of initiative and opportunity. So, if you look at the overwhelming majority of people who've become rich, throughout history, it's because they've had some sort of inner drive or some sort of inner motivation that other people just didn't have. They probably also had some level of intelligence that other people didn't have. And if you look at the overwhelming majority of poor people throughout history, most poor people kind of have a follower mentality. They have a sheep mentality. They generally tend to expect that their wealth and their abundance and their opportunities should come from other people instead of going out and making opportunities for themselves. And I think the same holds true today. There are a lot of people in the world right now that are complaining about how evil rich people are. And basically, they're just wanting the rich people to have to take what they've accumulated and hand it over to the masses, which I think is utterly ridiculous, first of all. And it's also completely unfair, because why should you just have something handed to you that you didn't work for? Now, that's not to say that there aren't poor people out there who are poor because they haven't had the opportunities to accumulate wealth. Maybe they've had some sort of extenuating circumstances in their lives that have held them down, or they've had bad luck, or they've had certain situations popped up that have contributed to their economic hardship. So of course there are many people in the world that fit that description. But I have to say, the overwhelming majority of people I see nowadays that are financially struggling, the main reason seems to be that either they're living in countries where the governments don't really give them the opportunity to accumulate wealth, because they've adopted all sorts of silly things like socialism and communism and all this type of like dumb stuff that really just leads to economic hardship. Because in a socialist society, generally it costs so much to actually operate a business, start a business, do anything that would actually allow you to accumulate wealth for yourself, that most people just don't even bother to try because they can't even get started. And there are also, very few initiatives to actually be an entrepreneur or start a business in societies like that. And then, the other people are just kind of sitting on their butts waiting for governments and taxpayers and other people to just hand them wealth, or they're depending on like winning the lottery to become rich, which is just utterly stupid. I've always thought that people that constantly play the lottery, it's just, if you think about it, if you took all the money that you spend on lottery tickets over the course of your life and you actually saved that and put it into a business or invested it in something, or, took classes, took training to get some sort of a skill or a trade, you'd probably be way better off than, the couple of times that you might have won the stupid lottery over the course of your life, which amounts to maybe like a couple of $100 for most people. So they'll put like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in to winning lottery through buying tickets, and then they'll end up over the course of their lives like winning a couple of small prizes, like $100, maybe $1,000 over the course of their life. It's utterly ridiculous behavior. So to all these people that are out there pushing communism and socialism as being the cure for all of our social ills, and we should get rid of the free market and get rid of capitalism, get rid of any sort of economic opportunity for anyone else, and just make people, be workhorses and slaves and pay taxes so that we can all live in a giant utopian welfare state. I just have to say, that's the absolute dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I can't believe that after seeing the failures over and over again throughout the 20th century of various communist states, the Soviet Union, look at what happened in China, look at what happened in Cuba, look at what happened in Venezuela, there's just so many examples of why this economic system just doesn't work in any way, shape, or form, and just leads to misery, oppression, and death for millions and millions of people. I can't understand why there are so many silly, economically ignorant people pushing this idea again in the 21st century. It's like, read a history book, use Google, take a trip, get on an airplane or a boat or whatever and take a trip to one of these countries that has fully invested in socialism or communism and take a look at the condition they're in. Everybody's starving, they're poor, they're filthy, and every single country that has stepped away from that plan has been steadily economically developing and looks a lot better than it did when they were practicing socialism. So, instead of just trying to take from others, figure out ways to make it so that people all over the world can have opportunity, so that people all over the world can actually have the ability to become entrepreneurs, to follow their dreams, to become abundant, to gather skills and training that will allow them to go out and trade their skills and training for money. Promote those types of ideas instead of promoting garbage socialist ideas that are just going to lead to everybody being poor. And oh, by the way, when everybody's poor and nobody can afford to pay taxes, who's going to support the welfare state? Because I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, but welfare actually comes from the taxpayer, not from the government. Governments don't actually produce or do anything. They don't create value in society on a monetary level. Governments get their money from the taxpayer. So what's going to happen when there's no taxpayers? What's going to happen in your socialist communist utopia when everybody's equally poor and everybody's in equal poverty and there's nobody to support the welfare state? I don't know if anybody's ever thought of that. Maybe you should.